Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for this distribution update today. We face very challenging trends around the country as the virus continues to spread, with hospitalizations and deaths near or at record highs in many places and still rising. But today we have hope on the way. Supplies of an FDA-authorized, safe, and effective COVID-19 vaccine are arriving at sites across America. Vaccinations begin today, as soon as healthcare workers are ready to start providing them. America is one of the very first countries to roll out a safe and effective vaccine for this virus, and America has played a greater role than any other in getting the world to this point. President Trump's Operation Warp Speed has helped bring us a medical miracle. Substantial quantities of a safe and effective vaccine within a year after the virus was first known to the world. I want to thank the President for his bold vision, for his unwavering support of Operation Warp Speed, and for bringing together all of America, HHS, the military, the private sector, and the states to make this happen. This week, everyone's work starts to pay off. This weekend's shipment of vaccines is 2.9 million doses, enough to vaccinate 2.9 million people, with 2.9 million doses held back and sent in 21 days for people to receive their second dose. Each Friday from here on out, we will announce new weekly allocations of vaccine. It's likely that another vaccine may be authorized in the coming days if it meets FDA's rigorous standards. Pending the successful authorization of other vaccine options, we have enough vaccines already purchased to ensure we can meet our goal of vaccinating every American who wants it by the end of the second quarter of 2021. We continue to negotiate for and purchase more doses, too, including the announcement of another 100 million doses of Moderna to be delivered in the second quarter of 2021. States and other jurisdictions have decided who will be vaccinated in the early stages, drawing on their own best judgment, their own situation, and the recommendations of experts. These jurisdictions will generally be using these first doses to immunize frontline health care workers, along with residents of long-term care facilities like nursing homes and assisted living facilities. Today, the CDC distributed another $140 million in funding to states to continue planning efforts around allocation. Operation Warp Speed is taking care of the cost of the vaccines themselves, the ancillary supplies like needles and syringes, and the cost of distributing the vaccines to jurisdictions, while healthcare payers are handling administration costs so no American faces an out-of-pocket expense for this vaccine. These jurisdictions have given us the locations where they want vaccines shipped. In total, 636 sites nationwide, with 145 sites expected to receive vaccine today, 425 tomorrow, and 66 sites on Wednesday. As we speak, vaccine is arriving at sites and in trucks and planes owned by UPS and FedEx to bring these life-saving products to the places where Americans will receive them. By Wednesday, vaccine will be delivered everywhere from sites here in Washington to the shores of Guam to the northeastern corner of Maine. Here in Washington, members of our military, HHS public health leaders, and private sector partners are running an operations center 24/7, where many of them have been essentially all weekend, to ensure these vaccines get where they're supposed to go without delay. Americans who may be in these early categories of healthcare workers or those in long-term care facilities should look for information from their state governments, like their state COVID-19 webpage, or for guidance about where and when vaccinations would occur. We know Americans will want to know how quickly vaccines are being administered and what kind of progress we're making. We want to ensure that any picture we give of this progress is accurate, and we plan to provide more updates on our work with states to provide as much information as possible in the coming days and weeks. Like so many Americans, I eagerly await the day when I can go receive a safe and effective vaccine, and the day when my family can do that too. In the coming weeks, I and all of our public health leaders across the administration will be out making a major push to educate Americans about the incredible safety and effectiveness of these vaccines. This FDA-authorized vaccine, and each vaccine FDA potentially authorizes, will have been through the typical numerous stages of safety review and more. This vaccine has gone through clinical trials much larger than many vaccine trials. It's gone through the drug company's checks. It's gone through an independent data safety and monitoring board. It's gone through the FDA's independent advisory committee. It's been subjected to transparent standards that the FDA has published of its requirements, and it's been authorized by FDA's career scientific experts. At 95% efficacy, this vaccine is extraordinarily effective at protecting you from this virus. Getting vaccinated will help keep you, your family, and your country healthy and safe. In the meantime, and in the coming months as our country approaches full vaccination, we have to continue taking steps to keep ourselves, our loved ones, and our community safe. Wash your hands, watch your distance, wear your face coverings when you can't watch your distance, and avoid settings where you can't do those things or where you may let your guard down. Every sacrifice you make in the coming months will help save lives and ensure that we emerge from this pandemic as soon as possible. Each vaccine administered in these coming days is a tribute to the generosity and genius of this country. The achievements of every American who made Operation Warp Speed possible should be a point of pride for us all. Our war against the virus is not over yet, but this week we're taking a major step toward our eventual victory. With that, I'll hand things over to Dr. Moncef Slaoui to provide an update on development, and he will then turn to General Perna, who will give us a more an in-depth update on vaccine distribution. Dr. Slaoui?
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Hello, everybody. Well, just very quickly, first acknowledge a historical event last week with the approval of the Pfizer vaccine. I think a great accomplishment by science and the investment in basic research, a great accomplishment by academic science, by science and development in biotech industry, in the pharmaceutical industry, and a great public-private partnership as enabled by the U.S. government. So really, I think great job. But yesterday was just the first step with the Pfizer vaccine approval. This week, probably tomorrow, the booklet for VRBPAC review of the Moderna vaccine will be made public, and many of you will have an opportunity to look more in depth into how remarkably aligned with the Pfizer data the Moderna data are, also with almost 95% efficacy against disease, 100% efficacy against severe disease, and more for you to review tomorrow. That booklet and the vaccine will be reviewed at the VRBPAC meeting by the FDA on Thursday, and hopefully, as for Pfizer, diligently followed up by potentially an approval of the vaccine and distribution. We have ensured significant commitment in terms of vaccine dose availability from Moderna, with 100 million in the first quarter and a second 100 million announced on Friday in the second quarter of 2021. We are in active discussions with Pfizer to similarly extend the number of doses available for the American population. But things don't stop there. You know that we have two other vaccines in phase 3 trials, the Johnson & Johnson, Janssen's vaccine, a one-shot vaccine. We now are almost at 42,000 subjects recruited in the study, so slightly more than the cap we announced last week. The study will stop recruiting later this week, and given the intensity of transmission in the US and in the other countries where the trial is being conducted, we definitely expect to have first readouts of that trial in the first parts of the month of January, and likely potential complete readout of the trial towards the end of the month, and submission of an EUA. Vaccine doses from the J&J vaccine will, if approved, start to participate to immunizing the US population in the month of February and going forward. And because it's a one-dose vaccine, they can really scale up very quickly the number of US vaccinees that would be immunized. The fourth vaccine that we have in the portfolio that's in phase 3 trials is the AstraZeneca vaccine. You know that that vaccine has undergone phase 3 trials in the UK, in Brazil, and in South Africa, but also under Operation Warp Speed. We have conducted a clinical trial mostly here in the US. We have more than 22,000 subjects recruited in that trial, and that trial should also be completing its first efficacy readout somewhere in the probably second half of the month of January, and potentially be ready for an EUA submission later in February, and again participating with vaccine doses in the month of March and going forward. These are the reasons why we feel confident, provided that the vaccine's performance remains on the path that we are on, that we will be able to have enough vaccine doses to immunize the US population. There's 2 points I want to say in conclusions. One is it's very, very important now that vaccines are approved in the US that Americans continue to act in a generous way, in that they would continue to participate into clinical trials. It is thanks to the participation of tens of thousands of Americans in the Pfizer and the Moderna trials that we are able to have these vaccines approved today, and that we are able to assess their efficacy and their safety. And likewise for the Janssen's and for the AstraZeneca trial. We have 2 more vaccines in the portfolio using more classical protein-based vaccine platform technology. Please continue to participate in the trial. These vaccines are very likely to be as effective as the vaccines that we know already, and as safe as those vaccines. It may very well be that participating in the clinical trials could be the fastest way to access vaccination. You know that we are doing the best we can in terms of providing vaccine doses, but these are rolling in the few millions per week. Participating in a clinical trial may allow you either immediately to have a vaccine dose, or immediately on completion of the trial, if you were on the placebo group, to have a vaccine injected. And the second key point is really to continue our engagement and all experts, real experts, engagement with the population to explain the data now that the data is available in public, that demonstrate the efficacy and the safety of these vaccines. It's very important that we increase the number of Americans that accept to be vaccinated based on facts and data and reality, because vaccines on a shelf are useless, and unless the majority, the large majority of us gets vaccinated, we will not be able to control this pandemic.